I built my company from the ground up over 37 years. Every contract, every expansion, every decision that mattered came from this desk. The leather chair still fit me the way it did 20 years ago. My hands were steady, my mind was clear. At 62, I was ready to step back. Not because I had to, but because it seemed like the right time. The folder sat in front of me that morning, prepared by my attorney, Harold Stein. Clean, organized, final. Transfer of ownership from Grand Orin to Lucas Orin, effective upon signature. My son would take over, continue what I started, build on the foundation I laid. That was the plan. I reviewed the documents one more time. Everything was in order. The company structure, the asset distribution, the transition timeline. Harold had drafted it exactly as I requested 3 months ago. Simple, professional, the way business should be handled. Elena appeared in the doorway with that bright smile she always wore when she wanted something. My daughter-in-law had a way of entering rooms like she already owned them. She carried a tray with coffee and pastries, arranged perfectly. "Good morning, Grand," she said, setting the tray on my desk. "I thought you might want something before the meeting. Big day." "Thank you," I said, moving the folder aside to make room. She poured the coffee herself, added cream the way I liked it, and slid the cup toward me. "Drink it while it's hot. We have a lot to cover this morning." I noticed she said we instead of you and Lucas. Small detail. I filed it away. Lucas appeared behind her, quieter, hands in his pockets. My son had always been reserved, but lately he seemed almost absent. He nodded at me without speaking. "Ready?" Elena asked him. "Yeah," Lucas said. "Your father's been looking forward to this," she continued, still addressing Lucas but looking at me. "Haven't you, Grand?" "It's time," I said simply. She smiled wider. "Exactly. Time to let the next generation take over. You've earned your rest." I picked up the coffee cup but didn't drink yet. Something about the way she watched me hold it felt wrong. Not obvious, just wrong. "We should move to the conference room," Elena said. "Everything's set up there. Harold called earlier to confirm he'd be here by 10. I glanced at the clock. 9:45. "Lucas prepared some remarks," Elena added, "about the transition, what it means to him." Lucas shifted his weight. "Elena wrote them," he said quietly. She laughed, light and dismissive. "I helped organize your thoughts, but they're your words." They weren't. I could tell by the way he wouldn't look at either of us. "Let's get started," I said, standing. I left the coffee on the desk. Elena's smile tightened for just a second. "You didn't finish your coffee." "I'll bring it with me," I said, picking up the cup. We walked down the hallway to the conference room. Elena led. Lucas followed her. I came last, carrying a cup I had no intention of drinking. The conference room table was already set, documents spread out in neat stacks, pens positioned at exact intervals. A folder with Lucas's name embossed on the cover sat at the head of the table where I usually sat. My seat had been moved one position down. "I thought this arrangement made more sense," Elena explained, "since Lucas will be leading the company after today." "The transfer hasn't happened yet," I said. "Of course," she said quickly. "I just meant symbolically." Harold arrived exactly at 10. Briefcase in hand, expression neutral. He had been my attorney for 23 years. He knew when something was off. "Good morning, Grand," he said, shaking my hand. "Lucas, Elena." "Morning, Harold," I replied. "Shall we begin?" Elena asked before Harold could set down his briefcase. Harold looked at me. I nodded. We sat. Harold opened his briefcase and pulled out 3 identical folders. He placed one in front of me, one in front of Lucas, and kept one for himself. "This is straightforward," Harold began. "Transfer of 100% ownership from Grand Orin to Lucas Orin, effective upon execution. All assets, liabilities, contracts, and obligations transfer with the company. Grand retains no ownership stake but maintains advisory privileges if requested by the new owner." Elena opened Lucas's folder before he could reach for it. She scanned the first page quickly, eyes moving left to right with practiced efficiency. "Everything looks good?" she said. "Lucas?" Harold asked. My son looked at Elena. She nodded. He looked back at Harold. "Yeah," Lucas said. "Looks good." Harold turned to me. "Grand, do you have any questions before we proceed?" I looked at the document in front of me, my company, my life's work, about to become someone else's. "No questions," I said. Elena pushed a pen toward me. "We should probably—" A crash from outside interrupted her. Loud. Metal hitting stone. Then a shout. "What was that?" Lucas asked. I stood and walked to the window. In the backyard, Mateo Alvarez, my gardener, was lying next to an overturned ladder. He wasn't moving. "Someone's hurt," I said, already heading for the door. "Grand, wait," Elena called after me. "We're in the middle of—" I didn't wait. I went through the house and out the back door. Mateo was sitting up now, holding his arm, face twisted in pain. "Mateo," I said, kneeling next to him. "Don't move. I'm calling an ambulance." "No," he gasped. "No ambulance. You fell from a ladder. You could have broken something." He grabbed my wrist with his good hand, pulled me closer. His voice dropped to a whisper, barely audible. "She told me to fall," he said, "after you drank the coffee. I was supposed to delay the signing." I went very still. "What did you say?" "Mrs. Elena," he whispered. "She said wait until Mr. Orin drinks the coffee, then cause a delay. She paid me. I'm sorry. I looked back at the house. Elena stood at the window, arms crossed, watching us. "Stay here," I told Mateo. "I'll handle this." I stood and walked back inside. My heart rate hadn't changed. My hands were still steady, but everything had shifted. Elena met me in the hallway. "Is he all right? We should call someone." "He's fine," I said. "Just shaken." "Good," she said, relief washing over her face. "Then we can get back to—" "Not today," I said. She blinked. "What?" "We're postponing the signing." "Grand, we've been planning this for months. Everything's ready. Harold is here." "I need more time," I said simply. "Time for what?" Elena's voice sharpened. "You said you were ready. You said it was time." I changed my mind. Lucas appeared behind her. "Dad, what's going on?" "Nothing," I said. "I just need to postpone." Elena stepped closer. "You're not thinking clearly. Maybe you should sit down. Finish your coffee. We can talk about this." "The coffee stays where it is," I said. "Harold, we're done for today." Harold stood, closed his briefcase without a word. He'd been a lawyer long enough to know when to leave. "I'll be in touch," he said to me, ignoring Elena completely. After he left, Elena turned to Lucas. "Talk to your father." Lucas looked at me, then at her, then at the floor. "Maybe he needs time." "He doesn't need time," Elena snapped. "He needs to sign the papers." "Not today," I repeated. I walked past both of them and went upstairs to the guest bedroom. I locked the door behind me and sat on the edge of the bed. My coffee was still in the conference room, untouched. I waited until I heard them leave. The front door closed, their car started, tires on gravel fading into silence. Then I stood and went back downstairs. The coffee cup sat exactly where I'd left it on the conference room table. I picked it up carefully, walked to the kitchen, and poured it into a glass container. I sealed it, labeled it with the date and time, and put it in the back of the refrigerator behind items no one else would move. Then I sat down at my desk and started making notes. Everything that had happened that morning. Every word Elena said, every reaction Lucas didn't have, the coffee, the timing, Mateo's whisper. I wrote it all down in precise detail. By evening, I felt different. Not weak, not confused, just slowed. My thoughts took longer to form. My body felt heavier than it should. I went to bed early. At 3 a.m, I woke up with my heart racing, my skin damp with sweat, and a pressure in my chest I'd never felt before. The room spun when I tried to sit up. I made it to the bathroom and splashed cold water on my face until the dizziness passed. Whatever had been in that coffee, I was feeling it now, and I knew exactly who put it there. I didn't sleep again that night. I sat in the guest bedroom with the lights off, waiting for my body to stabilize. By dawn, the dizziness had mostly passed, but the fog in my head remained. Everything felt muted, like I was observing my own thoughts from a distance. I had built a company through precision and pattern recognition. You don't succeed in business for nearly 4 decades without learning to see what others miss. Right now, my mind was working slower than usual, but it was still working. I needed to think clearly about what Mateo had told me. She told me to fall, after you drank the coffee. Elena had orchestrated the interruption. She had paid Mateo to cause a delay at a specific moment, specifically after I consumed whatever she had put in that cup. That meant the timing mattered. The coffee had a purpose. The delay had a purpose. What were they trying to achieve that required me impaired but still conscious enough to sign documents? I pulled out my phone and composed a careful message to my physician, Nina Caldwell. We had worked together for 15 years. She knew my medical history better than anyone. "Nina, I need to see you today if possible. Unusual symptoms. Prefer not to discuss over phone." "Grand," she responded within 20 minutes. "Can fit you in at 2 p.m. Come to the clinic directly, NC. Next, I opened my laptop and began reviewing files I hadn't looked at in weeks. Email exchanges, calendar entries, documents saved to shared folders I rarely checked. What I found confirmed what I already suspected. 3 weeks ago, Elena had scheduled a consultation with an elder care attorney. The appointment summary was in a shared calendar Lucas had accidentally given me access to months ago. The subject line read, "Discussing cognitive decline and transfer of authority." 2 weeks ago, someone had drafted a document titled Temporary Medical Power of Attorney. It granted Lucas decision-making authority over my medical care and finances, in the event of incapacitation or diminished capacity. I hadn't signed it. I hadn't even seen it until now. 4 days ago, Elena had sent Lucas a message. I found it in an email thread he had forwarded to me accidentally, probably while trying to send something else. Everything is set for Tuesday. Once he signs, we move forward with the next phase. Make sure you follow my lead during the meeting. Don't improvise. Tuesday was yesterday, the signing that didn't happen. I saved copies of everything to a secure folder and locked my laptop in the desk drawer. At noon, Lucas called. "Hey, Dad," he said. His voice sounded uncertain. "Just checking in. How are you feeling?" "Fine," I said. "Elena wanted me to ask if you'd thought more about the signing. We could reschedule for next week. Get it done before the month ends." "I'll let you know," I said. "Dad, is something wrong?" For a moment, I almost told him. He was my son. We had spent 34 years building a relationship, even if it had always been quieter than most. But then I remembered the message Elena had sent him. "Make sure you follow my lead." "Nothing's wrong," I said. "I just need time." "Okay," Lucas said. He sounded relieved that I wasn't pushing back harder. "I'll tell Elena." "You do that," I said. After the call ended, I sat at my desk for a long time, staring at the folder that still contained the transfer documents. Everything I had built, ready to hand over. Except now I knew exactly what would happen after I signed. They would wait for the right moment. Maybe days, maybe weeks. Then they would use the symptoms, the ones Elena had been inducing with whatever she put in my coffee, to claim I was declining. They would produce the medical power of attorney document. Lucas would become my guardian. Elena would make the decisions, and I would lose everything while still alive to watch it happen. The fog in my head cleared a little, sharpened by anger. Not the hot, reactive kind, the cold, calculated kind. I had built a company through careful planning and precise execution. If they wanted to take it from me, they had chosen the wrong approach. At 2 o'clock, I drove myself to Nina's clinic. The building was small, private, the kind of place where discretion mattered more than volume. Nina had built her practice on trust and accuracy. She didn't speculate. She dealt in facts. She met me in her office, not an exam room. That told me she understood this wasn't routine. "What's going on, Grand?" she asked, closing the door behind us. I told her everything. The coffee, the symptoms, Mateo's confession, the timeline of Elena's planning. I spoke factually, without emotion, the same way I would present a business case. Nina listened without interrupting. When I finished, she was quiet for a moment. "You think she's been dosing you with something?" Nina said. Not a question. "Yes." "And you want confirmation?" "I want documentation," I said. "Medical records that prove what's happening." Nina stood and walked to her desk. She pulled out a requisition form and began filling it out by hand. "I'm ordering a comprehensive tox screen," she said. "It'll check for sedatives, anti-anxiety compounds, anything that could cause the symptoms you described. I'll also run a full metabolic panel and cognitive baseline tests." "How long?" I asked. "Results in 48 hours for most of it. Some compounds take longer, but we'll have enough to establish a pattern." "I need it documented that I requested these tests voluntarily," I said, "with full cognitive capacity." Nina looked at me over her glasses. "You're building a case." "I'm protecting myself," I said. She nodded slowly. "I'll note everything. Time, date, your presentation, your reasoning. If anyone questions your capacity, this record will show exactly how clear you were thinking." I left the clinic an hour later with bandages on my arm from the collection and a printed summary of our conversation. Nina had been thorough, every detail documented. On the drive home, I called Harold Stein. "I need to see you tomorrow," I said, early, before anyone knows I'm coming. "What's this about?" Harold asked. "Revisions," I said, "to everything." There was a pause. Harold had handled enough family disputes to know what that meant. 8 a.m., he said. My office. "I'll be there." That evening, Elena called. Not Lucas. Elena. Grand, I hope you're feeling better, she said. Her voice had that careful cheerfulness that made my skin crawl. Lucas told me you needed more time. That's completely understandable. Thank you, I said. I was thinking, she continued, maybe we could have dinner this weekend, just the three of us. Talk things through in a more relaxed setting, no lawyers, no paperwork, just family. I'll check my schedule, I said. Please do, Elena replied. It would mean so much to Lucas. He's been worried about you. Has he? Of course. You're his father. He wants to make sure you're taken care of. Taken care of. The phrase hung in the air between us. I appreciate that, I said. Good, Elena said. I'll plan something special. You just rest and feel better. After she hung up, I sat in the silence of my home office and looked at the company logo on the wall. 37 years, built from nothing, and my own son was ready to let his wife take it away from me. No, not let. Lucas wasn't making these decisions. Elena was making them, and Lucas was following her lead because that's what he had always done. Even as a child, he had been the one who waited for others to choose first. His mother used to say he was thoughtful. I always knew he was just afraid of being wrong. Elena had recognized that weakness and turned it into a weapon. But weakness worked both ways. I opened my desk drawer and pulled out the documents I had printed earlier. The elder care consultation, the power of attorney draft, the messages between Elena and Lucas. I placed them in a folder marked evidence and locked it in my safe. Then I went to the kitchen and retrieved the sealed container with the coffee from the refrigerator. I packaged it carefully in a padded envelope and wrote Nina's clinic address on the label. Tomorrow, Harold would help me restructure everything. Nina would provide the medical evidence, and I would begin the process of taking back what was mine. But first, I needed to let them think they were winning. I sent Elena a text message. Dinner this weekend sounds good. Let's do Saturday. My house. Grand. Her response came immediately. Perfect. I'll take care of everything. You just relax. See you Saturday. XO. I put the phone down and stared at the message. She had signed it with XO, hugs and kisses, from the woman who was trying to incapacitate me. The rage I felt was clean and focused. It would carry me through what came next. Harold's office smelled like old paper and leather. He had practiced law in the same building for 30 years, refused to modernize the furniture or the filing system. Everything was organized, labeled, stored in drawers that required actual keys. In an era of cloud storage and digital signatures, Harold maintained physical backups of every document that mattered. It was exactly why I trusted him. I arrived at 7:55. Harold was already at his desk, reading glasses perched on his nose, a yellow legal pad in front of him. Coffee? He offered. No, I said. Thank you. He noticed the edge in my voice, set down his pen. What are we revising? He asked. I sat across from him and pulled out the folder I had prepared. I slid it across the desk. Harold opened it, began reading. His expression didn't change, but I saw his jaw tighten. He read through everything, the emails, the calendar entries, the draft power of attorney, the elder care consultation summary. It took him 11 minutes. When he finished, he removed his glasses and cleaned them slowly with a cloth from his desk drawer. It was something he did when he needed time to think. How do you want to proceed? He asked finally. I want the transfer canceled, I said. Permanently. I want Lucas removed as beneficiary from everything. The company, the estate, the trusts, all of it. Harold nodded slowly. That's a significant change. Yes. And Elena? Elena was never named in anything. She has no legal standing, but I want to make sure she never gets standing through Lucas. Understood. Harold pulled out a fresh legal pad and began making notes. We'll need to revise your will, update the trust structure, and file new succession documents with the company board. This will take several days to draft properly. How long? I asked. A week. Maybe less if I prioritize it. Make it less, I said. I need everything locked down before the end of next week. Harold looked at me carefully. Grant, I have to ask, are you certain about this? Once we execute these changes, reversing them becomes complicated. I'm certain, I said. What about Lucas? Have you considered that he might not be fully aware of what Elena is planning? I had considered it, extensively, but the message Elena sent him was clear. Make sure you follow my lead. Lucas knew enough. Maybe not every detail, but enough to be complicit. He made his choice, I said. Now I'm making mine. Harold nodded and continued writing. We'll structure it so that in the event of your passing, the company transfers to a management trust. You can name specific individuals or organizations as beneficiaries, but it won't go to Lucas. What about current assets? I asked. The house, vehicles, anything I've already given him. Harold paused. What have you given him? Last year, I transferred the title of the lake house to him as a birthday gift. 2 years ago, I bought him the Mercedes. Title's in his name. Gifts are harder to revoke, Harold said carefully. Once property transfers, it's his. We'd need grounds to reclaim it. What kind of grounds? Fraud, undue influence. If you can demonstrate that the gifts were given under circumstances that invalidate the transfer, we can challenge them. I thought about the coffee, the symptoms, the planned delays. I have grounds, I said. How do we proceed? Very carefully, Harold replied. First, we secure your current assets and authority. Then, once everything is protected, we can pursue recovery of transferred property. But Grand, this will likely become adversarial. Are you prepared for that? Yes, I said. We spent the next 2 hours going through every document, every asset, every legal structure that connected me to Lucas or Elena. Harold took detailed notes, asked specific questions, drafted preliminary language for each revision. By the time I left his office, the framework was in place. Harold would have complete drafts by the end of the week. One more thing, I said at the door. Don't communicate any of this to Lucas or Elena. If they ask, the transfer is still pending. Understood, Harold said. I'll keep this completely confidential. I drove home slowly, taking surface streets instead of the highway. I needed time to think without distractions. The pieces were moving into position, medical evidence from Nina, legal protection from Harold, but I needed more than that. I needed to understand exactly how deep this went. That afternoon, I did something I hadn't done in 5 years. I drove to the company headquarters. I still owned the building, still had access to everything, but I had been gradually stepping back over the past year. Elena had suggested it would be good for Lucas to establish his authority. I had agreed at the time. It seemed reasonable. Now I saw it for what it was. Removing me from daily operations so I wouldn't notice what was happening. I parked in my reserved spot and walked through the front entrance. The receptionist looked surprised to see me. Mr. Orin, she said, standing. We weren't expecting you today. Just checking on a few things, I said. Is Victor in? Victor Haynes, the CFO. He had been with the company for 12 years, reported directly to me, and maintained every financial record with obsessive precision. I'll check, the receptionist said, picking up the phone. 2 minutes later, Victor appeared in the lobby. He was 58, thin, with wire-frame glasses and a permanent expression of mild concern. Grand, he said, shaking my hand. Good to see you. What brings you in? I need to review some records, I said. Financial transfers from the past 6 months. Anything involving company accounts or my personal accounts managed through the company. Victor's concern deepened slightly. Is there a problem? Just due diligence, I said. Can we use the archive room? Of course. We walked through the building to the records archive. It was a climate-controlled room lined with filing cabinets and a single workstation. Victor unlocked the door and turned on the lights. What specifically are you looking for? He asked. Any transfers that I didn't personally authorize, I said, especially anything initiated or approved by Lucas. Victor was quiet for a moment. Then he nodded and went to one of the filing cabinets. He pulled out 3 folders and laid them on the workstation. These, he said quietly. I opened the first folder. It contained authorization forms for a series of transfers from the company operating account to a secondary account I didn't recognize. The amounts were small enough to avoid triggering audit reviews, but consistent enough to form a pattern. 20,000 here, 15,000 there. Over 6 months, it totaled nearly 200,000. The authorization signatures were mine. Except they weren't. I had been signing documents regularly over the past year, usually in batches that Elena prepared for me. She would bring them to my home office with tabs marking where my signature was needed. I had trusted that everything was legitimate. When did these start? I asked. 4 months ago, Victor said. I flagged them initially because the secondary account wasn't familiar, but Lucas explained it was a new operational fund you had approved. He showed me signed authorizations. Did you verify the signatures? Victor hesitated. I compared them to documents on file. They appeared consistent. I looked at the signatures again. They were good, very good. Not perfect, but close enough that someone who wasn't looking for fraud wouldn't catch it. Where does this secondary account lead? I asked. Victor pulled out a second folder. It's registered under a business entity called Orin Family Holdings, LLC. Lucas is listed as the managing member. You're listed as a limited partner. I never registered that entity, I said. The formation documents show your signature, Victor said carefully. I looked at the documents, same forged signature. How much is in the account now? I asked. Victor checked the third folder. As of last week, $412,000. I had been building a retirement fund for myself without knowing it. Except it wasn't for me, it was for Lucas and Elena. I want this account frozen, I said. Today. Grant, I can't freeze an account without proper authorization. If you're listed as a limited partner, Lucas has authority as the managing member. Then remove my signature from the documents, I said. Revoke the entity formation. Whatever it takes. Victor looked uncomfortable. That's a legal process. I can't just... Call Harold Stein, I said. He'll provide the necessary documentation, but that account doesn't move another dollar starting now. Understood, Victor said. I left the archive room with copies of everything. As I walked back through the building, I passed Lucas's office. The door was closed. I didn't knock. Outside, I sat in my car and reviewed what I had learned. Forged signatures, a shell company, $400,000 in redirected funds. This wasn't opportunistic. This was planned, methodical, and executed over months. And I had signed the documents that made it possible because I trusted my family. That trust was gone now. What replaced it was colder, sharper, and far more useful. I called Harold. We need to add fraud to the documentation, I said. Financial fraud. I have evidence. Bring it tomorrow, Harold said. We'll incorporate it. That night, I sat in my home office and went through every document I had signed in the past year. Every contract, every authorization, every approval. I separated them into two piles, legitimate and suspicious. The suspicious pile was larger than I wanted it to be. Elena had been thorough. She had waited until I trusted her completely, then she had used that trust to build a structure designed to take everything, but structures could be dismantled. And I had the blueprints. Nina called Wednesday morning while I was reviewing financial records at my desk. I answered on the first ring. Grand, I have your results, she said. Her tone was professional, but I heard the underlying tension. And? I asked. We need to meet in person. Can you come to the clinic this afternoon? I'll be there at 2, I said. The next 3 hours moved slowly. I tried to focus on the documents Harold had sent over for review, but my mind kept circling back to what Nina might have found. Confirmation would mean I was right. It would also mean my daughter-in-law had been deliberately incapacitating me for months. At 1:45, I drove to the clinic. Nina met me in her office again, a folder on her desk. Sit down, Grand, she said. I sat. Nina opened the folder and turned it so I could see the lab results. Rows of numbers, reference ranges, highlighted sections. You tested positive for benzodiazepines, she said, specifically a compound consistent with lorazepam. It's an anti-anxiety medication, sometimes prescribed for sleep disorders. I've never been prescribed that, I said. I know. That's why I documented this carefully. She slid another page toward me. The levels in your system were consistent with regular dosing over an extended period. Not high enough to cause obvious impairment, but enough to affect cognitive function, reaction time, and decision-making. I stared at the numbers. Medical proof that someone had been slipping me medication without my knowledge or consent. How long? I asked. Based on the metabolites in your system, I'd estimate 3 to 6 months of regular exposure, possibly longer. 6 months. Elena had been planning this longer than I realized. What are the effects? I asked. At the amounts you were receiving, you'd experience mild cognitive slowing, reduced anxiety, increased compliance with suggestions, and difficulty maintaining sustained focus. The symptoms would be subtle enough that most people wouldn't recognize them as chemically caused. They just think they were tired or stressed. Could it affect my ability to make legal decisions? Nina met my eyes. Yes, a court could argue that you were not fully competent to enter into contracts or make significant legal decisions while under the influence of this medication. That was what they wanted. Get me impaired enough to sign the transfer, then use the medication as grounds to claim I wasn't capable of managing my own affairs. I need this documented, I said. Everything. The test results, your analysis, the timeline. I need it in writing. I already prepared a medical report, Nina said, handing me a sealed envelope. It includes the lab results, my clinical observations, and my professional opinion that you were unknowingly administered a controlled substance over an extended period. I've also noted that as of our meeting today, you present with full cognitive capacity and clear decision-making ability. Thank you, I said. Grand, Nina said carefully. Whoever did this committed a serious offense. This goes beyond family dispute. This is criminal. I know, I said. But I need to handle it my way. I have to report this, Nina said. Medical ethics. Report it after I've secured my assets, I said. Give me 1 week, then you can file whatever reports you need to file. Nina was quiet for a long moment. 1 week, she finally said. After that, I'm obligated to act. That's all I need, I said. I left the clinic with the medical report in hand and drove directly to Harold's office. He was in court, but his assistant said he would be back by 4. I waited in the conference room, reading through Nina's report 3 times. Harold arrived at 4:15, still wearing his suit from court. What's happened? He asked, seeing my expression. I handed him the medical report. He read it standing up, one hand gripping the back of a chair. Good Lord, he said when he finished. Grand, this changes everything. I know. We can pursue criminal charges, file a civil suit. This is evidence of fraud, battery, possibly attempted guardianship fraud. Not yet, I said. First, I need everything locked down. Once my assets are secure, once Lucas and Elena can't touch anything, then we move forward with consequences. Harold set the report on the table carefully. You're certain you want to handle it this way? I'm certain, I said. All right. He opened his briefcase and pulled out a thick folder. I have the revised documents ready. New will, updated trusts, amended company succession plan. Everything removes Lucas as beneficiary and establishes independent management structures. He laid the documents out one by one, explaining each section. The new will left everything to a charitable foundation I would establish. The trusts transferred my assets into protected structures that Lucas couldn't access. The company succession plan named a board of trustees who would manage operations in my absence. What about the lake house and the Mercedes? I asked. I've drafted reclamation documents. We'll need to file them separately, but with the medical evidence, we have grounds to argue those gifts were made under duress or incapacity. File them, I said. There's one more thing, Harold said. He pulled out another document. This is a comprehensive power of attorney revocation. If Elena or Lucas ever obtained any documentation suggesting you granted them authority, this formally revokes it, retroactively. I signed every document Harold placed in front of me. My signature was steady, clear, legally binding, the exact opposite of the forged signatures Elena had been using. When does this take effect? I asked. The moment you sign, which you just did. I'll file everything tomorrow morning. By close of business Thursday, all changes will be official and recorded. And Lucas? He'll find out when we send the formal notifications, which, based on your timeline, should be Monday. That gave me 4 days. 4 days to finish preparing, to ensure every piece was in place before they realized what was happening. Perfect, I said. That evening, Elena called again. Just confirming Saturday dinner, she said brightly. Is 6 o'clock good for you? 6 is fine, I said. Wonderful. I'm making your favorite. That pot roast you love. My favorite. She had asked me once, 8 months ago, and I had mentioned pot roast offhandedly. She had filed that information away, saved it for when she needed to seem thoughtful. Thank you, Elena, I said. That's very considerate. Of course. Your family. She paused. Grand, Lucas wanted me to ask if you'd thought any more about the transfer. He doesn't want to pressure you, but the accountants are asking about timing for tax purposes. Tell Lucas we'll discuss it Saturday, I said. Over dinner. Perfect, Elena said. I could hear the satisfaction in her voice. She thought I was softening, giving in. See you Saturday, I said. After the call ended, I went down to the kitchen and began preparing. Not for dinner with them, for what came after. I pulled out every supplement bottle, every medication, everything Elena had ever given me to help with energy or improve sleep. I photographed each one, then sealed them in individual bags with labels. More evidence. Next, I went through the pantry and refrigerator. Anything Elena had brought, anything she had prepared, went into labeled containers. I wasn't taking chances. Then I changed all my passwords, bank accounts, email, company systems, everything. I used random strings of characters, wrote them down on paper, and locked the paper in my safe. By midnight, my house was clean, no contaminated food, no access points, no vulnerabilities. I slept better that night than I had in months. Thursday morning, Harold called. Everything's filed, he said. You're protected. Thank you, Harold. Grand, I need to be clear about something. Once Lucas finds out, he's likely to contest these changes. We'll win, especially with the medical evidence, but it could get ugly. Let it get ugly, I said. I'm done protecting him from consequences. Understood. The notifications will go out Monday morning. Friday passed quietly. No calls from Lucas or Elena. They were probably planning the dinner, deciding how to approach the conversation. Elena would coach Lucas on what to say, how to seem concerned without being confrontational. I spent Friday at the bank. My primary accounts were at First National, where I had been a client for 28 years. I met with the branch manager, a woman named Patricia, whom I had known professionally for over a decade. I need to restrict access to all my accounts, I told her. Remove any authorized users except me. Patricia pulled up my account information. Currently, Lucas Orin is listed as a beneficiary on your savings and investment accounts. Remove him, I said. That's a significant change, Mr. Orin. Are you sure? Completely sure, I said. I also want to freeze any accounts that might have been opened using my information without my direct authorization. Patricia's expression shifted. Do you suspect fraud? I have evidence of fraud, I said. I'll be pursuing it legally, but for now, I need to ensure no further unauthorized transactions occur. She nodded slowly. I'll need to flag your accounts for review. That means no transactions, incoming or outgoing, until we've verified everything. That's exactly what I want, I said. I spent 2 hours at the bank, reviewing every account, every transaction, every linked authorization. Patricia took detailed notes, printed records, and assured me everything would be secured by end of business. When I left the bank, I felt lighter. The pieces were all in position, medical evidence, legal protection, financial security. Now I just needed to wait for Saturday. That evening, Lucas called. His timing was almost funny. Hey, Dad, he said, looking forward to tomorrow. Me too, I said. Elena's been cooking all day. She really wants this to be nice. I'm sure it will be, I said. There was a pause. Dad, about the transfer. I know it's a big decision. I just want you to know that I'll take care of the company. I'll honor what you built. You won't get the chance, I thought. But what I said was, we'll talk about it tomorrow. Okay, Lucas said. He sounded relieved. See you at 6. 6, I confirmed. I hung up and stood at the window, looking out at the garden where Mateo had fallen. The ladder was gone. The area was cleaned up. It looked like nothing had ever happened there. But something had happened. And tomorrow, everything would change. I had built my company on strategy and patience. I had learned to wait for the right moment, to let pieces move into position before making the decisive move. Tomorrow was that moment. I was ready. Saturday morning, I woke at 5:30, showered, and dressed in casual clothes that looked relaxed but felt like armor. Navy slacks, white button-down, no tie, the kind of outfit that suggested I was comfortable, at ease, ready to have a pleasant family dinner. I wasn't. I was preparing for war. At 8, I called Mateo. He answered on the third ring, his voice uncertain. Mr. Orin? Mateo, I need to speak with you. Can you come to the house this morning? Yes. When? 9 o'clock. Come to the back door. He arrived exactly on time. I met him in the kitchen, offered coffee that he declined. He looked nervous, hands shoved in his pockets, eyes not quite meeting mine. Sit down, I said. He sat at the kitchen table. I sat across from him. I'm not angry with you, I said. But I need to know everything. What did Elena ask you to do? How much did she pay you? What were the exact instructions? Mateo swallowed. She came to me 3 weeks ago. Said you were getting older, that the family was worried about you handling stress. She said the signing would be hard on you, that you might need a break right before it happened. What did she tell you to do? Wait until you drank the coffee she prepared, then fall from the ladder. Make it look real, but not serious. She said it would give you an excuse to postpone if you were feeling overwhelmed. How much did she pay you? $2,000. Cash. $2,000 to disrupt a signing that would transfer millions. Elena understood cost-benefit analysis. Did she say anything else? I asked. Mateo hesitated. She said if anyone asked, I was to say I had fallen accidentally, that she'd give me another $1,000 after the signing happened. Has she contacted you since? No. I pulled out an envelope and slid it across the table. There's $5,000 in there. It's yours. But I need you to write down everything Elena said to you. Every conversation, every instruction, exact words if you remember them. Mateo looked at the envelope, but didn't touch it. Mr. Orin, I don't want trouble. You won't have trouble, I said. You'll have a signed statement from me saying you cooperated fully with resolving a family matter. That's all. No police, no lawyers. Just your statement. He picked up the envelope slowly. What are you going to do? I'm going to stop them, I said simply. Mateo nodded. I'll write it down. He spent 40 minutes at the kitchen table, writing in careful block letters. When he finished, he signed and dated the statement. I made a copy, gave him the original, and put my copy with the other documentation. "Thank you, Matteo," I said. "You can go." After he left, I reviewed the statement. It was clear, detailed, and damning. Elena had explicitly paid him to disrupt the signing after I consumed the coffee. That established premeditation, coordination, and intent. Another piece locked into place. At noon, Harold called. "Just confirming," he said. "Notifications go out Monday morning. Lucas, Elena, the company board, and the bank will all receive formal documentation of the changes simultaneously." "Perfect," I said. "How are you feeling about this, Grand?" "Clear," I said, "for the first time in months." "Good. Call me if anything changes before Monday." "I will." I spent the afternoon preparing the house. Not for a dinner party, for documentation. I set up a small camera in the dining room, hidden behind books on the shelf. Nothing obvious, just enough to record the conversation. I tested the angle, made sure it captured the table clearly. Then I positioned my phone on the sideboard, recording app ready but not running. Backup documentation. At 5:45, I heard a car in the driveway. I looked out the window, Lucas and Elena arriving early. Elena carried a covered dish. Lucas carried a bottle of wine. I opened the door before they could knock. "Right on time," I said. "We wanted to make sure everything was perfect," Elena said, brushing past me into the house. She was wearing a blue dress, hair styled carefully, makeup professionally done. She looked like she was going to a celebration. She was, just not the one she expected. Lucas followed her, quieter, carrying the wine like he didn't know what to do with it. "Dad," he said, nodding. "Lucas," I replied. Elena went straight to the kitchen, set down the dish, and began pulling out serving platters like she owned the place. I watched her move through my kitchen with practiced ease, opening drawers, finding utensils, setting the table. "Where do you want to eat?" she asked. "Dining room or here?" "Dining room," I said. "Perfect," she smiled. "More formal, more appropriate for the conversation we're going to have." There it was, the real purpose of the dinner, the transfer, the signing, the final step in taking everything. "I'll open the wine," Lucas said. We moved to the dining room. Elena had set the table beautifully. Candles, cloth napkins, my good plates. She was creating the atmosphere of a significant occasion. "This looks wonderful," I said. "I wanted it to be special," Elena replied. She sat down at the opposite end of the table, the position usually reserved for the hostess. Lucas sat to her right. I sat at the head. Elena served the pot roast. It actually did smell good. She was an excellent cook. That had been one of the first things I noticed about her when Lucas introduced us. She knew how to make people comfortable. "Let's eat," she said. "Then we can talk." We ate in relative silence for the first 15 minutes. Elena made small talk about the weather, about a restaurant she and Lucas had tried last week, about plans for the holidays. Normal conversation, pleasant, designed to relax me. I played along, nodded at the right moments, laughed at the appropriate places, let her think it was working. Finally, Elena set down her fork and looked at me directly. "Grant, I know you've been thinking about the transfer. Lucas and I want you to know that we understand this is difficult. You built that company from nothing. It's your legacy." "It is," I agreed. "And we want to honor that legacy," she continued. "Lucas is ready to take over. He's been learning the business, building relationships with the clients, establishing his authority. It's time." I looked at Lucas. He was staring at his plate. "Lucas," I said, "do you think you're ready?" He looked up, glanced at Elena, then at me. "Yes, I'm ready." "What's your vision for the company?" I asked. "Where do you want to take it?" Lucas opened his mouth, but Elena spoke first. "We want to expand into new markets," she said. "Diversify the client base. Build on the foundation you created." "I asked Lucas," I said quietly. Elena smiled. "Of course. Lucas?" My son looked between us. "What Elena said, expansion, diversification. Can you be more specific?" I pressed. "Grand," Elena interrupted gently. "Lucas doesn't need to prove himself to you. You already decided to transfer the company. We're just finalizing the details." "Actually," I said, "I've decided not to transfer the company." The silence that followed was absolute. Elena's smile didn't falter, but something shifted behind her eyes. "I'm sorry, what?" "I've decided to keep the company," I said, "indefinitely." "Grand, we talked about this," Elena said, her voice still carefully controlled. "You agreed. Everything was ready. You were about to sign." "I changed my mind," I said. "You can't just change your mind," Elena said. The control was slipping now, edges sharpening. We've been planning this for months. Lucas has made commitments based on this transition. You gave your word. I gave my word before I knew what was happening, I said. Lucas finally spoke. Dad, I don't understand. What's changed? I looked at my son. Really looked at him. Saw the confusion, the uncertainty. He genuinely didn't understand. Everything has changed, I said, starting with the fact that you and Elena have been stealing from me. Elena's face went very still. That's absurd. Is it? I stood and walked to the sideboard where I had placed a folder that morning. I opened it and pulled out the financial records Victor had given me. Orin Family Holdings, LLC. $200,000 redirected from company accounts over 4 months. Forged authorization signatures. Want to explain that? Those aren't forged, Elena said quickly. You signed those documents. No, I said. I didn't, but you did an excellent job copying my signature. Almost perfect, just not quite. Lucas was staring at Elena now. What is he talking about? Your father is confused, Elena said. He's not thinking clearly. That's exactly why we need to move forward with the transfer. He needs help. I pulled out the medical report from Nina. I had a comprehensive tox screen done 3 days ago. Turns out I've been taking benzodiazepines for the past 6 months. Interesting, since I've never been prescribed them. I watched Elena's face. She was calculating now, trying to figure out how much I knew. The coffee you served me last Tuesday, I continued, I saved it. Had it tested separately. Same compound. You've been tampering with what I consume, Elena, deliberately, to make me more compliant, easier to influence. That's insane, Elena said, but her voice had lost its warmth. You're making accusations based on nothing. I have medical documentation, financial records, and witness statements. I have everything I need. Lucas stood up. Dad, wait. Slow down. What are you saying? That Elena has been secretly adding things to your drinks? Yes, I said, and stealing from me, and forging my signature, and planning to have me declared incompetent so she could take control of everything I own. Lucas, don't listen to him, Elena said. He's paranoid. This is exactly what the doctor warned us about. Cognitive decline, delusions. What doctor? I asked. The elder care specialist you consulted 3 weeks ago, the one who discussed having me declared mentally unfit? Elena went very pale. I've seen the emails, Elena. I know about the power of attorney documents you drafted. I know about the timeline, the plan, all of it. Lucas was looking at Elena like he'd never seen her before. Is this true? Of course not, Elena snapped. Your father is having a breakdown. We need to get him help. The only thing breaking down, I said, is your plan. Elena stood up, abandoning any pretense of composure. You ungrateful, selfish old man. Do you know what I've sacrificed for this family? The years I've spent catering to you, managing Lucas, holding everything together while you sat in your office pretending to still be relevant? There it is, I said quietly. You were ready to step aside, Elena continued, her voice rising. You knew you couldn't handle it anymore. All I did was help you see what was already true. By tampering with what I was consuming, I said. By making it easier, Elena shouted. You were suffering. I made it better. I made you comfortable. And yes, I took compensation for that work. You owe me that. Lucas was standing frozen, looking between us. I don't owe you anything, I said, but you're going to return everything you took, the money, the property, all of it. Elena laughed. It was a harsh, ugly sound. You think you can just take it back? It's done. Legal. Lucas owns the lake house. His name is on the accounts. You gave it to us. Under duress. While impaired, those transfers are void. Prove it, Elena said. I already have. I pulled out the final folder. New will, new trusts, new company succession plan. Everything signed, notarized, and filed as of Thursday. Lucas gets nothing. You get nothing. The company goes to a management trust. My estate goes to charity. Every gift I gave is being legally reclaimed. The silence that followed was different this time, final. Elena stared at the documents like they might catch fire. Then she turned on Lucas. Do something, she hissed. What do you want me to do? Lucas asked quietly. Fight this. He's your father. You can contest it. Based on what? Lucas asked. His voice was hollow. He just laid out everything. The illegal substances, the theft, the forged signatures. How do I fight that? You're pathetic, Elena spat. You've always been pathetic. Your father knew it. That's why he never really trusted you with the company. That's why I had to take over. You couldn't have done any of this without me. I know, Lucas said. And in that moment, I saw my son clearly. Not the antagonist, not the mastermind. Just a weak man who had let his wife destroy his relationship with his father because he was too afraid to stand up to her. It didn't change anything, but I saw it. Elena grabbed her purse. This isn't over. Yes, I said. It is. You'll both receive formal notifications Monday morning. You have 2 weeks to vacate any property that legally belongs to me and return any assets you obtained through fraud. Go to the authorities, Elena said. See what they do. You have no proof I interfered with what you were taking. Those supplements were for your health. The coffee was just coffee. You're an older man letting suspicion get the better of you. Maybe, I said, but I'm a paranoid old man with excellent lawyers and documented evidence. Take your chances if you want. Elena looked at Lucas one more time. Are you coming? Lucas looked at me. Dad. Go, I said. There's nothing left to say. They left. Elena first, slamming the door hard enough to rattle the frame. Lucas followed more slowly, not looking back. I stood in the dining room, listening to their car start, listening to them drive away. Then I sat down at the table and turned off the hidden camera. Everything was recorded. Everything was documented. I had won. But it didn't feel like winning. It felt like the end of something I couldn't get back. I cleaned up the dinner dishes, put away the food, and went to my office. On Monday, the notifications would go out. Lucas and Elena would be officially severed from my assets, my company, my life. The war was over. Now I just had to live with the victory. Sunday passed in careful silence. I spent most of the day in my home office, reviewing the final documentation Harold had prepared. Every revision, every clause, every protection was in place. By Monday morning, everything would be official and irreversible. I didn't hear from Lucas. I didn't hear from Elena. The silence confirmed they were regrouping, deciding how to respond, or possibly just accepting that they had lost. At 8 Monday morning, Harold called. Notification sent, he said. Electronic delivery to Lucas and Elena, physical delivery to the company board and relevant financial institutions. Everyone has been formally notified of the ownership and succession changes. Thank you, Harold. How are you holding up? He asked. I'm functional, I said. That's enough. The board meeting is confirmed for 10 a.m., Harold continued. I'll be there with complete documentation. This is it, Grand, the final step. I know, I said. I'm ready. By 9, my phone started ringing, and first call was from Victor Haynes at the company. Grand, I just received the succession notification. The board meeting this morning, Lucas and Elena don't know about it, do they? No, I said. They'll find out when they arrive. They're coming? Victor sounded surprised. I invited them, I said. Both of them. Told them we were having a final discussion about the transition. They think they are coming to negotiate. Victor was quiet for a moment. You're ending this publicly. Yes, I said. I am. The next call was from Patricia at the bank. Mr. Orin, we've processed all account restrictions and beneficiary changes. Everything is locked down. The frozen accounts contain $478,000 traced to fraudulent transfers. Perfect, I said. Send the complete report to Harold Stein. He'll need it for the meeting. Already done. At 9:15, Lucas called. Dad, we're on our way to the office. Elena and I want to talk about this. We can work something out. I'll see you at 10, I said, and hung up. I dressed carefully that morning, my best suit. Navy, perfectly tailored. White shirt, tie that Elena had given me 2 Christmases ago. I wore it deliberately, reminder of what they had tried to take. I arrived at the company at 9:45. The boardroom was on the 3rd floor, windows overlooking the city. Harold was already there, briefcase open, documents arranged in precise stacks at each seat. Everything ready? I asked. Everything, Harold confirmed. Medical reports, financial fraud documentation, court orders for property reclamation, witness statements. It's all here. And the board? Arriving now. I briefed Eleanor last night. She knows what's happening. The board members filed in over the next 10 minutes. 7 of them, including Eleanor Wright and Victor Haynes. They took their seats quietly, sensing this wasn't a normal meeting. At 9:58, Lucas and Elena walked in. Elena smiled when she saw me, confident, composed. She thought this was a negotiation she could win. Grand, she said warmly. Thank you for agreeing to meet. I think if we all just sit down and talk rationally, we can resolve this misunderstanding. Sit down, I said. They sat. Lucas at the far end of the table, Elena next to him, the board members between us. At exactly 10 o'clock, I stood. This meeting is now in session, I said. Thank you all for being here. Lucas, Elena, I asked you here because what I'm about to announce affects you directly. Elena's smile faltered slightly. Grant, we really should discuss this privately first. No, I said. This is a company matter. It will be handled officially, with witnesses, with documentation. I nodded to Harold. He stood and began distributing packets to each board member. Thick folders, tabbed, organized. What is this? Lucas asked. Evidence, I said, of systematic fraud, forgery, and attempted theft carried out over the past 6 months by Elena Orin, with the knowledge and cooperation of Lucas Orin. The room went completely silent. Elena stood up. This is absurd. Grand, you're not well. Everyone here knows you've been struggling. This paranoia? Sit down, Elena, I said quietly. Something in my voice made her sit. I walked to the head of the table where a presentation screen had been set up. Harold activated it. The first slide appeared. Medical evidence, the header read. 6 weeks ago, I began experiencing unusual symptoms, I said. Cognitive slowing, reduced focus, physical weakness. I had comprehensive testing done by my physician, Dr. Nina Caldwell. The next slide showed lab results, highlighted sections marking the presence of benzodiazepines in my system. I tested positive for a prescription anti-anxiety medication I had never been prescribed. The levels in my system were consistent with regular use over a period of 3 to 6 months. Elena's face went pale. Dr. Caldwell's report concludes that I was unknowingly administered a controlled substance designed to impair my decision-making capacity and increase suggestibility. I advanced the slide. A photo of the coffee cup from that Tuesday morning appeared. This coffee was tested separately, same compound. Elena served it to me personally the morning I was scheduled to sign transfer documents. That's circumstantial, Elena said, but her voice lacked conviction. Anyone could have... Mateo Alvarez, my gardener, provided a sworn statement, I continued. He testified that you paid him $2,000 to stage a disruption after I consumed the coffee. His exact instructions were to delay the signing until the medication took effect. Lucas was staring at Elena now, his expression shocked. I advanced to the next section. Financial fraud. Bank records appeared on screen. Transfers highlighted in red. Over the past 4 months, $478,000 were transferred from company operating accounts to a shell corporation called Orin Family Holdings, LLC. The authorization signatures on these transfers appear to be mine. I pulled out a document and held it up. This is one of the authorization forms. Harold, please display the signature analysis. Harold switched to a split-screen comparison. My genuine signature on the left, the forged signature on the right. Side by side, the differences were obvious, different pressure points, slightly altered letter formation. Close, but not identical. These signatures were forged, I said. Elena prepared batches of documents for me to sign over the past months, mixing legitimate company paperwork with fraudulent authorizations. I signed what I thought were routine operational documents. She used those sessions to practice copying my signature. Victor spoke up. I can confirm these transfers were flagged during our internal audit. The secondary account was registered under Lucas Orin as managing member. Lucas found his voice. Dad, I didn't know about the medication. I swear I didn't know she was tampering with what you were taking. But you knew about the money, I said. It wasn't a question. Lucas looked down. Yes. You knew about the forged signatures? I thought, Elena said you had approved everything, that you just couldn't remember because of stress. Convenient, I said. What else did Elena tell you? Lucas didn't answer. I advanced the presentation. Draft documents. Images of the power of attorney paperwork appeared. The elder care consultation summary, the messages between Lucas and Elena discussing my cognitive decline and transfer of authority. These documents were prepared in anticipation of having me declared mentally incompetent after the company transfer was complete. The plan was simple: get me to sign over the company while impaired, then use the medication's effects as evidence that I needed a guardian. Lucas would become that guardian, with Elena making all decisions. I turned to face them directly. You were going to take everything I built and lock me away in my own house, declaring me too senile to manage my own life. All while I was still alive, still aware, still capable. Elena stood again. You can't prove intent. These are just documents, plans we never executed. You're making assumptions? The medical evidence proves the administration of prohibited substances, I said. The financial records prove theft, the witness statement proves coordination, the draft documents prove intent. I don't need to assume anything, I have facts. I walked back to my seat and pulled out a final folder. Which brings us to today's announcement, I said. Effective immediately, all previous succession plans are permanently canceled. Lucas Orin is removed from all company roles, all ownership consideration, and all future inheritance. Lucas closed his eyes. The company will remain under my sole ownership and control. Upon my passing or incapacity, ownership will transfer to a management trust overseen by this board. Lucas will receive nothing. Elena will receive nothing. I pulled out additional documents. Furthermore, all gifts previously given to Lucas Orin are hereby legally reclaimed. The lake house title has been transferred back to my name. The Mercedes has been repossessed. All financial accounts listing Lucas as beneficiary have been restructured. You can't do that, Elena said. Those were gifts, legal transfers. Made under duress while I was chemically impaired, I said. The court has already approved reclamation. Sheriff's enforcement is authorized if necessary. Harold stood. I have copies of the court orders here. Everything Mr. Orin has stated is legally executed and binding. He began distributing additional folders to Lucas and Elena. These are your formal notifications. You have 14 days to vacate any property owned by Mr. Orin and return any assets obtained through fraudulent means. Failure to comply will result in criminal charges for fraud, forgery, and unlawful physical violation. Unlawful physical violation, the legal term for administering substances to someone without consent. Elena's composure finally cracked. This is insane. You ungrateful, vindictive old man. Do you know what I sacrificed for this family? The years I spent managing Lucas, keeping everything together, handling your affairs. Tampering with what I consumed wasn't sacrifice, I said calmly. It was a violation. I made your life easier, Elena shouted. You were declining anyway. All I did was speed up what was already happening. There it is, Eleanor Wright said quietly from her seat. An admission. Elena realized what she'd just said. Her face went white. Lucas stood up slowly. Elena, stop talking. Don't tell me to stop. Elena turned on him. This is your fault. If you had been stronger, if you had taken control when you were supposed to, none of this would have happened. But no, you're too weak, too passive, too incapable to do anything without me. I told you the plan was too risky, Lucas said, his voice hollow. You didn't tell me anything, Elena snapped. You just followed instructions like you always do. You couldn't even forge a signature properly. I had to do everything. The board members watched in stunned silence as Elena and Lucas turned on each other. I never wanted to interfere with what he was taking, Lucas said. That was your idea. And you went along with it. You stood there every morning while I prepared that coffee. You knew exactly what I was doing. I thought it was just supplements. You believed what you wanted to believe, Elena screamed. Because you're a coward. You've always been a coward. Your father knew it. That's why he never trusted you. Enough, I said. They stood breathing hard, glaring at each other. You're both finished, I said. Lucas, you chose your wife over your father. Deception over honesty. You allowed me to be manipulated and compromised. Those were your choices. I turned to Elena. You planned everything. The substances, the fraud, the coordination. You turned my son against me and tried to take everything I built. I gathered my materials. You failed. The company and all assets remain mine. At the door, I added, you've received eviction notices and asset reclamation demands. Harold will handle all contact. Reach out to me again, and I'll pursue criminal charges. Dad, please, Lucas began. I have no son, I said, and walked out. Through the glass, they were already shouting as the board watched in silence. It's finished, Harold said. Yes. In the hallway, Victor caught up. The board stands with you. The elevator took me down alone. By tonight, Harold said, everything would be official. I left without looking back. I drove away knowing the truth. Everything I built was secure. Lucas and Elena had nothing tied to my legacy. The victory was cold and final. I knew what it cost, but my empire stood.